Hey everybody, it's me, Everyday Nerdy here, and today we're going to be doing Char's helmet. It's a bit different because Char's helmet is completed, and on top of that, I redid the whole model. So I'm going to be showing you, in a nutshell, as fast as I can, how I remade the model. So let's get to it. So as you can see here, I have the model right here, and this is just the outer part of the model. I'm going to explain how I made this. I try to group it into sections. So the first part of the model, I'll just right click the loft so you can see, because I did two lofts to make it, is I have lofts to do the railing for the model of the helmet, the outer part, because it wasn't like a perfect circle and I wanted to match the design as much as possible. So I created perpendicular planes and I made sure I did construct planes so I knew what would be the middle part of this plane if I needed to do something to mirror this, which is what I'm going to be doing soon. And then on top of that, I made sure once I did one plane, once I did the second perpendicular one, I would make sure I would use the intersection tool to make sure, as you can see here, that it's purple a bit, is because I use the intersection tool to make sure it touches. So when I loft, it's not going to give me an error. And then I basically did a sketch plane on the bottom, making sure that all these planes are in these sketches are enclosed on the bottom, so you can do a closed polygon and then you can loft it. And as you can see, oh god, let me hit escape. Let me do edit feature. As you can see, this is profile 1 and this is profile 2, and then you can see I did rail 1 for that, and that's how I did that. This circle here was an estimate of like the idea of how big a head is, and so that's why that circle there is just a point of reference for size. So now that we have that lofting done, we're going to do the second loft. And when we do the second loft, which I'll show right here, I had split the first loft with a cut here, which is why you see that curvature. And then once I split that loft, I used that face as a lofting base, as a profile 1, to then loft to the bottom. And how I got this specific angle of a loft was from that beginning sketch where when we extruded it down, is I did an angle. I did a line. And when I did a line, which is a line right here, you can do a plane at an angle. So I was able to have a plane set up like this, which is how I was able to do a construct plane to then create the second face of a loft, which would be the second part, if that's all making sense. So that's why I lofted these two pieces together. And then once you have it all lofted together, I did the shell option, combined the bodies, and I did the shell option because that's what makes it really easy to do. I did 4 millimeters. And then after that, I mirrored it, which is pretty cool. And I combined them all together. Voila! But we're not done yet because we have the beak, whatever you want to call that piece. So I thought of a lot of ways to do that. I tried doing lofting again for this piece, but I wasn't sure. So I think the most simple route that I did, which, let me just rewind this a bit, is on the center plane. I extended the lines because that's where I wouldn't say extend, but I drew a path. Like one of these lines is considered the path of the peak because I did the sweep tool. So, oh god, not again. Fusion 360 does this every now and then. It's very annoying. Ay. You get stuck in orbit. So let me see if I can just have it still right here. Okay, so I'll try to do this as still as I can. But if you see, actually, be right back. Let me close Fusion. So now I'm back. Fusion didn't crash, but it gets stuck in like an orbit thing sometimes. So here we have where the peak's gonna be, and here you have some lines. Sometimes these lines happen naturally. If they don't, there's usually like I'll create a sketch or a line and I'll use that as a point of reference, and you can split the face there by just creating why I keep forgetting the word, a construct plane if you want. And so once that is done, I'll show how I did this, the sweeping tool. go here, if I hit right click here, edit feature, you see I can just take this profile, because now that it's split, and I just pull it down, but you see I have a path. And I use that railing as a path, however you want to word it, and that's how I guide that sweeping tool. And then I slice it, like this curve here is how it gets sliced. And that's basically how I did, let me hide the sketches, the main outer helmet. Now, let's get to the horns. So here we're going to do the horns, and as you can see I have things in groups down here. Let me minimize. This was the helmet, and here's the horns. We're going to do the horns, and well, I'm going to explain a bit. So the sketches are a bit explanatory here. These are the ones for the horns. So you create a line. As you can see, there's a line right there that's highlighted. This is the line that I use then to create a construct plane at an angle. And then when I create a construct plane, I can create a sketch, and in that sketch is where I can extrude, which you can see right there. I extrude that centerpiece. And then once that centerpiece is extruded, you can do drafts. And then after I did that, I was going to do the lofting for boop, boop, this guy back here. So, and let me show you how I do the lofting for that one. So, I use a line as a path. And then for that, it doesn't matter if it goes under a bit, because you could always combine. Like, it went through the helmet a bit, but that's fine. So, like I said, you can ignore if the lofting goes through, because if it goes through the helmet, that's fine. You can always do a combine later. But I use the face of the combine. I used the loft. One of the first bases was from the centerpiece, because once I drafted the sides, as you can see how they're angled on the centerpiece, I was able to use that face and then just loft to the end. And this is where it gets a bit subjective, because sometimes this would be super sharp, sometimes it was flat, this top part. I did it more of a flat texture on the top. Some of them had them like pointy. I didn't like it that way, so I just did it flat and smooth here at the top. So that's a bit subjective. And then that's how we do the centerpiece. Alright, so now let's talk about the horns. I'm going to do my best to explain it. The trickiest part with the horns was to make sure it was flat. And that's where we're going to get into details, because you couldn't just sweep them because of the angle they're at. They would never be flat because you're doing it twice. You're doing it, let me show you, you're doing, oh no, not again, Fusion. Be right back. So I'm back, sorry, Fusion keeps having this issue where it keeps crashing on me and I get stuck in an orbit, so bear with me. I'm just trying to get this video out. So, as I was saying, for the horns to make them flat was difficult because you're lofting at 2 points, and because of the angle I kept running into issues. So what I did first was, if I go, and let me double check, hopefully this is correct. If I go here to this sweep, you see I did a sweep body here, but I did a new body and I have a path for that sweep. One path for that sweep. I make sure it goes to that. But however, once I did that path, I chamfer the sides, and then I did a combine. And so that now has created, as you can see, a cut into the centerpiece for the horn. Now that I have that done, I then have to do a construct plane into where it got cut, which is down here. And then when I do that construct plane, I have to make sure it's X amount off of that bottom piece, because remember, because of the tolerance, you can't have this piece sitting exactly there, because then the piece won't fit when it prints. So I did, as you can see, these purple lines, they're projected planes, projected outlines, sorry, from the first one. And so I did a roughly 0.5 millimeters as a tolerance. So that construct plane is up 0.5 millimeters. So if you look, you can barely see it, but you see there's a plane above here, right here, 0.5 millimeters up. And that's going to be the path that I'm going to be using for the horn. Not the cut of the horn, but the actual horn. Hopefully this makes sense. So here, if I hit this feature, you can see I did one right here, and I did the path, and you see it's not the same one as the one that was cut. So now I have that done. And then you adjust the body later on. Let me actually show, I don't know why the body isn't showing. Fusion's being weird sometimes. So I have that done here. I have it here. But then I wanted to make sure that this was straight. And the only way I could think of doing it was I created a line right here that's highlighted, this line. You can do, well, you do a line through points, which is what this is, or an axis. Sorry, that's a feature in the, when you hit construct down here, that's one of the features. And then you can do a plane that I believe is through, let me actually hit edit feature to make sure I'm saying it right. It's a plane through axes or lines. So I made sure the bottom line here where the sketch started, where the sweep started, that we're creating the new body, not the cut. And then the one that's on the new body was flat. Because then I can use that plane as a flat plane reference for when I'm creating the second part of the loft. So that makes sure this whole entire horn is flat. This was the only way I can make it be flat. If I didn't do this, every time I printed it, I had to like push a little bit past the bed. So I'm gonna see if I can try to explain that again. Is once you do this horn, you want to create a plane behind this horn, so that like if I click this right here, you can see it's perfectly flat with this guy right here, because I'm using those two axes or line as a point of reference. And then I can use that new construct plane to create a sketch to then do a line that goes all the way up here, so then it's perfectly flat. And then you can do, I usually do those as lofts because I want them to end with a tip right there. So, and then once that's done, you can just mirror things. Freaking happen again. So this is, if anybody ever has these issues on Fusion, let me know, because this lately has been happening a lot. And like, look, I don't mean to take a break from this, but look at this. Very annoying. So this is actually the hardest part though. I'm gonna be right back and we're gonna discuss a little some other things that I did with the model. Be right back. Hey everybody, it's me. I'm back. So here I gotta make this quick because this camera keeps dying. I gotta figure this out later. Either way, here is the face mask. So the face mask is basically two parts. First we have the bottom, which can be done with a sketch. Right here in the center, that's a sketch, can be done, extrude it, and then the faces you can do split body, you draw the sketch, and boom, you can just split body for all of those designs. Here in the front, the nose, the eyeballs, very cool. Now, something else that can be done, well, not else, the second part, sorry if I'm going too fast, is this head brace, whatever you want to call it, is basically done by two sweeps and a loft piece. Let me explain. So you have the inner sweep, which is this guy, which you'll draw a sketch here and you make a path and then you sweep it so it can go perfectly there. And then you do one that lands on top, which is where these guys are. Okay, which is why you have these two sweeps here. And then you can see like when I right click it. So, and then once that is done, you could create a piece that goes outside of it. So if I go here, you'll see it here. If I roll history marker here, you'll see it better here. Like you see how ugly this looks right here? Oh my god, this freaking camera. Oh. So the camera cut off, but if I can recap what I was trying to say is you have to do two sweeps, the inner and then the outer. And then once you have the inner and the outer sweep, you can create one loft like I did here, and you loft it and you can create as big as you want. You just have to make sure it overcomes the outer sweep that you're creating in here. And then once you do that, you have the loft, and then you make sure the loft, you do this tool is called the pattern on a path. This is the same path you can use for the sweep tool. And then once that is done, if I go here so I can show you what I'm talking about. You see here you have two sweeps, and then the ugly pattern. Technical difficulty. This one, I'll show you here. Here I did intersect for the part, which is why you see it's yellow instead of like the red or the blue for joining. So I'm intersecting all these like crazy weird lofts that I just did the pattern on with a top sweep line. So that's how I guarantee this part is touching this. Because before I tried doing this individually and then just using the pattern tool on it. And the pattern tool, it wasn't touching it perfectly. So that's how I did these. It's a neat trick. Pretty cool. And so we got that. And I went over that. So let's go fast forward. So here we're fast forward at the very end. And the only thing that I haven't discussed yet is these pieces back here. Which I did these basically kind of lofting, just creating shapes. This shape was done basically by... If I remember correctly, I did a word's hard, difficult right now. So this guy here, I did a loft. Here, if I right click this, you can see the loft that I did. I did a loft like this outside, and then I just did on the side, I did a split body to get that smooth curvature over there. So I usually do lofts for weird designs because I find it easier. And then that's the holes for the magnetic piece. And then the last part, oh, let me find the body. Oh God, okay, here we go. Pew pew. Oh, I can't see because my camera. Oh God. Okay. Aha. Is this. So this part is what took me a while. It's like a bunch of lofting and just doing a lot of bad, nasty sketches. But if you ever wanted to see a tutorial of like this whole entire thing, let me know and I'll do a video. I try to do a quick synopsis of everything that I did and, you know, so then you can see the actual helmet. But this is here just like, I guess you could think of it as like alignments to make sure when the inner part sits into the helmet is something to make sure it's like on it and that the magnets have somewhere where they can connect. And then my little logo right there. I will have this guy up for sale, so if you guys want it, you can click on the link. It'll be in the description. And time to see the actual helmet in real life. Bye. Hey, so here we're gonna go over the actual helmet print. This here is the mask part. As you can see, I welded a bit of the front. It's pretty neat. It was my first time welding the PLA. Last time I used super glue, and many people reached out and said don't ever do that again. So I welded it. Here's the back. I tried welding it also with like filament, which is why you see there's the orange color there in the back. Pretty neat. Here we have the horns. And as you can see, is where the magnets are. I already have the magnets installed in them. This time I did make the horns a bit too fragile. The tips kept breaking, so I believe I just select more infill to make these horns a bit more sturdier. And then here we have the helmet. Voila! I don't print using supports because I am lazy. Well, support to the inner part. I use support for the outer brim, and then I was like, oh, I messed up taking the supports off, so let me just use the soldering, and I made it worse. So I'm not the expert at this. And this is the helmet combined with everything. I like it a lot. And I saw critiques about people saying, oh, this is not Char's color. I just use whatever PLA is available. And after you sand it, you then primer and paint all that jazz. But this is the helmet. Very cute. Very, very cute. Thanks for watching, y'all. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Bye.